Hey guys, welcome to today's Wednesday checkout, and today we are doing a little bit of different one. We're doing a photo editing one. It seems like the video you guys like the most. It's a bit of a detour from our usual cinematography and sound design and color grading, but in a sense it's color grading, right? It's just on a photo. Anyway, so we're using Lightroom Classic today, and we're editing this. Alright, so in Lightroom we have this beautiful photo of my dog, and what I want you to see is that this photo is quite overexposed, but we also barely have details in the shadows, in the dark areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the exposure to bring back the details in the whites, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the shadows to just bring back details in the darker area, so on his hair. So overall, I want this to be a dark image, especially with the light area. I want this to bring this exposure on the highlights and the whites down a lot to give us that dark look. But we want to retain some extent of contrast to this photo, so I'm not going to reduce it too much. But what we also can do is by reducing the contrast slider, and this will retain some more details in between the highlights and the shadows as well. Okay, as a final step on the basic adjustments, we're going to edit our texture, our clarity, and our DAs a bit. So we're increasing the texture, increasing the clarity, and then increasing the DAs a little bit. And then I don't want the saturation of this photo to be so prominent, so I'm going to remove some of the color with the variance. And then as a last step, make some final adjustments just to make sure everything is fine. Okay, there we go. Let's just scroll down to our settings for vignette. So this will be under effects. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the amount ever so slightly until I like what I see. And yeah, let's stick with it right there. So next step would be our HSL curves. So we need to play with the colors. I'm going to just change this to saturation so that we can see one thing at a time. Starting with the saturation. Let's go with the blue, so the blue in the light area. I'm going to reduce this significantly. I don't want all of the saturation in the light. I want to retain a little bit of blue, and I want to change the hue of the blue as well. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, next I'm going to change the hue, so I want to make the blue a little bit more teal. So let's drag the blue down ever so slightly. There we go, I like this. Let's maybe try the alpha as well. Okay, yeah, that looks amazing. Okay, so the next part is going to be the luminance, and this is a great way to reduce the overall brightness of the photo, but be very careful with your luminance because we have the ability to break the image. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to reduce the blue luminance, so the sky, down to -100, and if you look at the trees over here, you can see we're busy breaking the image. So what we then need to do is bring it back until we don't find or see this effect anymore. Okay, let's bring it back a little bit, and I think that looks good. Try a little bit more. Okay, awesome. I'm going to stick with this. What's next? So let's go with the saturation of this tree. So the green and yellow color bands. And I don't want this saturation to be in the photo. I want it to be not a monotone photo, but a dark photo. So we don't have a lot of saturation. So what we do is we go to our green and yellow sliders under saturation, turn it down a bit, being attentive to not breaking the image, and see what we can do. Okay, now let's play a little bit with the luminance on the yellow and green. So green has a little bit of effect. Yellow, let's try not to break it. Let's stick it somewhere over there. Let's play a little bit more with the aquas and the yellows. Okay. So a little bit of tweaks until we find what we like. And okay, yeah, I think this is what I like. So next up, let's go with the purple, teal, orange, and red channels. So starting with saturation, let's reduce the red channel and the orange channel. Actually, let's see what it does to the tongue, the yellow channel. Doesn't really change too much. Okay, let's go to the luminance and see what the purple does to the tongue. So nothing really. Doesn't do anything to the photo, right? So more to the sky than the tongue. Magenta, so we can see on the side of the tongue in the shadow area, it's affecting the area there. I'm going to stick it around about here. And that looks good. Let's go to all just to see what we have. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do something that doesn't look good initially, but we're going to correct it and then it's going to look amazing. So let's go to the yellow hue. So if I play with this, you can see it does have a big effect on the photo. If I go towards the red side on the yellow, it introduces a yellow tone to it that we don't really want, but stick with me. So let's leave it somewhere over there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the hue of the greens to compensate for what we've just done on the yellows. Okay, let's see what the saturation on the red does. So you can see clearly here it has an effect on his tongue. So let's keep that saturation at 0 and see what the orange does. Okay, let's, keeping in mind it changes the color of his eye. I want to keep some of the details. I'm going to reduce it a little bit. Aqua's just a little bit effect on the light, so let's leave it there. Purple magenta doesn't really have an effect on the saturation. And now what we're going to do is look at the tongue. Look at the tip of his tongue. So let's reduce, make it a little bit darker. I like that look. I think that looks good. And then in the orange, so this makes a big difference. So we want to introduce some brightness, but keeping a look on his eye as well. And it does have some effect on his tongue as well. Don't want to break it, so let's stick it somewhere over there. Maybe, yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it over here. So the main thing we want to focus on here is his eye, right? That is going to be the focus point of this photo. Now on to the last part that actually makes or breaks your image. And this absolutely adds the craziest look to our photos, right? And what I've done is I've pre-made 3 masks just to save you some time on watching. I'm going to take you through what I've done with these masks just to get to a point where we totally enhance this photo to get this amazing look that we've seen. So I'm going to start with the mask where we just blurred out and reduced the overall exposure on the trees in the background. So I want to remove the focus on the trees, and I want to make sure that we don't see any breakage between the colors. So I'm going to show the overlay just to show what I've done. This is a simple paintbrush, and then I'm going to go to the settings to show you what I've done. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the mask that I've applied with a brush. It's got a little bit of a soft edge to it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to first off start by reducing the overall exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. And then we need to go to effects and then completely decrease the texture and most of the clarity. So just a little bit of a before and after. This is the effect we have on this. The second mask I've added is to enhance the white areas on the dog. So we want to put focus on this, and our eyes naturally go to where the brightest areas are. So we want to enhance all of the white areas, especially on his chest area and some on his face as well. So let's look at the mask that I've applied here. So again, just a brush mask. Let me show you the overlay, and there we go. So this is basically what I've added. It's mostly under or mostly on the whiter areas or the white hairs. Some on his face. I'm actually going to add a little bit to his face as well. Let's take the brush tool again and just add a little bit more to the darker areas of his white hair. And let's just apply a little bit more to this mask. Let's just color this in, and then I want to do this piece on his nose as well. Okay, there we go. So if we look at the settings, you'll see I've increased exposure, increased the shadows, and also increased the whites. Slightly worked with the highlights, left the blacks, and I left the contrast as well. So let's just reduce the amount that we apply on this effect. And now let's have a look at the before and after of this mask. Massive difference. Now at this stage, this photo is completely drawing us in. The final part we need to do is the final mask, and that is the focus of this photo, and that's going to be the dog's eyeball. So I've added the mask, simple brush mask again. Let me just show you the overlay. There we go. And a simple trick with this, play around with the settings, your exposure, highlights, shadows. But the most crucial part is under effects to completely increase the texture, clarity, and the dehaze. This will give you this crazy, almost unrealistic clarity to his eye. And just look at this difference. I mean, this is night and day. And just like that, we've went from this to this. I mean, it's a massive difference and it looks amazing. Thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you liked this one, and we will see you next week.